Hey, what's going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. And today I want to share a story with you that comes from my weed free 2019 journey. Um, and this story is about the pivotal moment where I think the entire weed free thing was able to happen, where I was able to follow through. So, around 2 months in, around February 2019, I was at a friend's house and he was smoking weed, and I really wanted to join him, right? Like, so bad. And the point is that, you know, I had committed to going a year weed free, yet 2 months in, I found myself in a situation where all I really wanted to do was smoke weed. And I had a hard time convincing myself that it wasn't a bad idea. Like a lot of the classic stories and thoughts came up, ones I'm sure you're familiar with if you've ever tried to take a break or if you've ever tried to quit but failed. Thoughts like, what's the big deal? And we'll just do it this one time. And I don't think it's a big deal. What's the big deal? I've gone 2 months without it. What's the big deal? And so, in the midst of crisis, I called a friend, and this friend's name is Andre. And my friend Andre, he's not a stoner. In fact, he doesn't smoke weed at all. And he's someone who's very much, into the self-help, self-development, personal development. So I called my friend, and I don't really exactly remember what he said, but he just kept encouraging me and suggesting to me that I was doing this for a reason, that I committed to going a year weed free for a reason. And I don't remember what I said, but I'm pretty sure all I kept saying to him was, "What's the big deal? What's the big deal? What's the big deal?" Just trying to rationalize my desire to smoke in that moment. And I'd like to reiterate the fact that, I committed to this journey of going weed free, yet 2 months in, I found myself completely, like, all I really cared about. Like, I didn't care about weed free. I didn't care about anything of my commitments. All I cared about is just wanting to smoke. Like, they just like consumed me. And I couldn't justify, like, why that wasn't a good idea. Like, all I was like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? What's the big deal? What's the big deal? Right? And so I got off the phone, and I don't really recall, but I'm pretty sure I got off the phone, like, I don't remember if I told Andre, my friend, that, like, wasn't gonna do it. What I do remember is that when I did get off the phone, shortly thereafter, I was struck with, it's like I find it's like I got off the phone and I snapped out of it. Like, I snapped out of that whole "what's the big deal? What's the big deal?" Phenomenon. And I snapped back, and I somehow, through the grace of the universe, was reconnected to my commitment. And my whole point with this story, and to finish the story rather, I didn't smoke that day. And what I learned from that day is that, with the way the mind works, and particularly, if you're someone who likes to smoke weed a lot and wants to change that, like, the mind, it'll trip out, and it'll go into this mode, whether it's habitual or whatever, where it'll just go into this mode where it's like, it'll get so fixated on wanting to do something that things such as goals and commitments, like, they don't even fucking exist. And I wish I knew the brain science behind that. I want to say it has something to do with the prefrontal cortex and something like that. I don't know. All right, but again, so I didn't smoke that day, and what I learned is that, like, the brain will just, like, the cravings, the state of being in cravings, it's like a hypnotic state, man. Like, it's not like, it's not that you really want to smoke weed. Like, you really do want to stick to your commitments, but like the brain will just try and trick you. Like I don't know if that's the right words, but it's like your brain will go into this mode where like all it will do is like want to your ability to make rational goal driven decisions, it's like gone, and all it's replaced is short-term gratification and short-sightedness. All right. And so ever since that day, that 2 month mark, it was essentially a cakewalk. That was kind of like the last big craving that I had last year. And to me, metaphorically speaking, it was kind of like my stoner identity, my sabotage identity's last big try to get me to not change. And that's kind of how the identity works, is that the identity doesn't want to change because it's scary. Because, I was someone who identified as a stoner, and I was someone who identified as an addict, and I was also someone who identified as like unable to change. All right. And so 2 months in, it all kind of came together, and it was like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? It's just weed. What's the big deal? And it's true. Like, what is the big deal? But the importance of following through on a commitment is so important. Okay, did I even say anything there? It's important to follow through on commitments, man. Because that's a promise you're making yourself. You're looking yourself in the eye and you're saying, I commit to do this. And that's a promise you make with yourself. And to break that, and I know many people have experienced this, especially with weed on this channel, is like, man, and I'm speaking for myself here, I can recall well over 100 times did I say I was done, and I didn't follow through. And man, the lack of self-respect that comes from that, not following through, breaking promises over and over and over again within minutes sometimes, it's so self-defeating. Okay. So what's my point here? What's the takeaway for you? So the moments of change are when you want to go back and do your old habits. But the moment of change that's when you're able to make a new choice. And that's when you're able to etch a new neural pathway in your brain. Right? Because if you're a stoner and you're someone who smoked all the time, when the thought comes and it says, should we smoke? The answer is always yes. And in fact, in your brain, there are like 1 million neural pathways that lead to saying yes to weed. Are we sad? Yes, let's smoke. Are we happy? Yes, let's smoke. Did we achieve something? Yes, let's smoke. Did we fail? Yes, let's smoke. Are we bored? Yes, let's smoke. And it gets to a point where it's like, did we commit to not smoking? Yes, let's smoke. And it's like, there's literally no neural pathway that says no. And that's why it's so hard to say no. Okay. But on top of that, to say, if you're someone who has etched a lot of yeses in your brain to weed, to now create the path of no is to directly go against all of the pathways that say yes. Now, here's the thing, all right? And here's kind of like, it's talking to you straight here. Whether you realize you're doing this or not, you're the one who created all these yes pathways in your brain. Okay? And that's on you. All right? And that was on me. Okay? You got to own up to that. All right? And so if you're someone who wants to create no's, not no's, but if you want to become someone who can say no, and to the point where it's normal, you got to earn it. Got to earn it, man. It's just like, someone who's strong and has like big biceps, barring surgery, you got to earn that shit. All right. So if you're someone who wants to have some discipline around weed, you got to earn it. And the only way you earn it is by saying no and following through, even if it's hard and it hurts. And on top of that, on top of saying no, it is in your best interest to find other ways to solve the many various problems that weed solves for you. Whether it's being bored, gotta find another way. Whether it's you're stressed and need to relax, gotta find another way. If you want, you just gotta find other ways, right? And you can, for sure, all right? So to reiterate, to recap, the mind plays tricks on you. Your identity doesn't want you to change. And if you want to change, you got to earn it. And that's it. All right, guys. Hopefully, this was helpful in some way. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you in another video. Peace.